Standing metal seam roofing differs from regular roofing panels because they don't have all the fasteners are hidden. That's the number one benefit. We call it, kind of a slang term, is like your barn metal. You can see all those exposed fasteners. They have the little rubber garment screws. The problem with that is after years, that rubber garment can dry rot out and water can, leak around those. If the installers, over tighten them or don't tighten them enough, or even maybe miss, a bar joist or something like that, and they just screw it into metal and that fastener is really not doing anything, you're going to have water intrusions. With a standing seam metal roof, all your fasteners are hidden. So they have these special clips that get screwed down on each panel, and then the next panel overlaps those fasteners, and it has a special interlocking system. There's different types of standing seam roofs that have different ways that they lock, but essentially they're all the same. You don't see any fasteners, so they are more aesthetically pleasing in that way, not seeing all those fasteners all over the roof. But more importantly, there's, when you put on a metal roof, there's tens of thousands of, screws that could eventually leak, where with a standing seam roof, you just eliminated all of those. There are several different types of standing seam roofing systems out there. There's residential systems, there's commercial systems. The way they interlock, there's a snap lock system. There's another system that they use a special crimper. You have like a little tool that goes on top of the seam it'll run down that seam and it'll crimp the seam together. That's kind of just the contractor's personal preference. They're both going to have the same type of warranty. They're going to be the same cost. Of course, there's different colors and other things like that. You can even get different textures, different thicknesses, gauge thickness for the metal, different rib heights, which is going to make it more structurally sound. If you're going to span from rafter to rafter or bar joist to bar joist over, trying to span over longer linear foot amounts, as far as like commercial goes, you can get a heavier duty standing seam roof with deeper ribs, so that way you could actually walk on that, and it's going to be a lot more rigid versus like a residential one that's usually going to be applied directly over like an OSB sheathing. So yeah, there's several different types of standing seam metal roofs. You see a lot of standing seam metal roofs in some northern parts of the country where they're going to get a ton of snow and high winds. Like I was just up in Colorado, and almost everywhere you see, there's a lot of standing seam metal roofs. You get huge snow drifts sitting on the roof, tons of ice dams. You don't have any of those fasteners. You don't have to worry about water working its way back up underneath shingles, things like that. It's not going to blow off. It's all, interlocked with each other and screwed down with, actual, fasteners. That's a big area where you'll see those. And other than that, it's just kind of personal preference. As far as homeowners go, a lot of people like the looks of a standing seam metal roof. They just think they look a lot better than an asphalt shingle. Other homeowners prefer an asphalt shingle, and they don't like the looks of metal. So it's just a personal preference, as far as that goes.